The rainy season comes in summer to Mount Zhongnan. Limping creeks snake through the valley down to the Weishui River at the mountain's northern foot. Rising before dawn, Lao Tzu watched the flowing stream and recalled his dialogue with a young man.
逝者如斯夫，不舍昼夜。河水不知何处去，人生也不知该于何处。
人有幼、少、壮、老之变化，犹如天地有春、夏、秋、冬之交替。这是自然的规律，为什么要悲伤
？The young man was none other than Confucius, whose courtesy name was Zhongni.
仲尼为什么不学习水的品德？
水有什么品德呢？
上善若水，水善利万物而不争，处众人之所恶，此乃天下之德也。
In the spring of 524 BC, Confucius was 27 years old. He went to Luoyi, capital of the Eastern Zhou dynasty, to study the governance and morality of deceased emperors, and visit Lao Tzu for the same purpose, which was his most important mission in the city. The two most prestigious ideological torchbearers in Chinese history met in the sacrificial hall on the imperial palace grounds. Confucius was deeply impressed by the rites unique to the Zhou dynasty. He vowed to restore them and took this as his contribution to a world mired in chaos.
对于当时的世道啊，这个儒道两家的创始人孔子和老子，有共同的感受，就是都是天下大乱或者天下无道，但是这个原因他们的理解又不一样。孔子认为这个主要是由于周礼的破坏，礼崩乐坏，因此呢，他认为如果恢复了礼乐文明为礼乐制度，那么社会就会回到原来的比较好的状态。
According to the records of the Grand Historian, Biography of Confucius by Sima Qian, Lao Tzu admonished Confucius.
我听说，善于经商的人，把货物秘藏，不让别人看见。虽然富有，却像什么也没有。德高的君子，往往像个愚钝的人一样，毫不外露。
可是现在这个时代，礼崩乐坏，只有广大士子挺身而出，去不折不扣地恢复周礼，让人们懂得仁义，这才能让天下安定啊！
仲尼，如逢时，则可一展胸中之抱负；如不逢时，则应顺自然之理，不必以己之身强托于人。
儒家是讲究尊卑等级，因为他认为只有个人和整个社会都严格的按照尊卑等级来做，这个社会就安定了。一旦这个等级秩序被打乱了，这社会就会动乱。
Confucius was full of confidence in his own ideas. He didn't give up his ambition in spite of Lao Tzu's admonitions. Three months were spent to study Zhou rites. Teacher and student subsequently parted ways.
我听说，富贵的人送别人金钱。我不富不贵，没有钱送给你，只有几句话，全当作送别的礼物。当今世道，聪明而深察的人，他之所以遇到要丧命的灾难，是因为喜欢嘲笑别人的缺点。为人之子，别以为自己多么高明；为人之臣，别以为自己多么了不起。希望仲尼你能够牢记。
Confucius departed Luoyi excited yet frustrated. Lao Tzu perceived his disciple would have a tumultuous future. In 516 BC, when Lao Tzu was writing the Tao Te Ching on Mount Zhongnan, Confucius was riding in a horse-drawn carriage on his way to Qi State. There he would preach his statecraft to Duke Jing, ruler of the Qi State. Confucius met Duke Jing in Linze. The Duke asked Confucius about his view on governance, and Confucius said this: "If sons behave filially, fathers paternally, kings royally, and subjects loyally, all would be well with the world." However, the Duke did not listen to him and had a wild ambition of conquering other states. This was Confucius's major setback. Confucius sighed when leaving Linze. The great way has disappeared. This showed his yearning for Lao Tzu's sage advice. Confucius commented on Lao Tzu in his old age. "I know birds can fly, fish can swim, and beasts can run. Catch those that run with nets, fish those that can swim, and shoot those that can fly. As for dragons, I shall never know how they remain in the sky." When I saw Lao Tzu, he was like a dragon. China entered the Warring States period around the 5th century BC. Weak dukedoms gradually perished, and the remaining 7 powers began to fight with one another. In this troubled time, Confucianism gradually developed and expanded with disciples and followers across the country. Confucius's writings and sayings were regarded as classics by the public. Confucianism never stopped drawing reference from Taoism. In 290 BC, a fierce debate took place in the Jixia Academy in Linzi, capital of the Qi state. The debate raged between Meng Ke, a scholar from the Lu state, later known as Mencius, and Xun Kuang, a young scholar from the Zhao state, also known as Xunzi. Both were Confucian disciples. They debated on how Confucianism should learn from Taoism under the title of Man Proposes, God Disposes.
从孔子到孟子，他们这个天都有神秘的道德的这个属性。到了荀子这里呢，这个天就被还原成了自然之天。那这样一种思想资源，就明显的是受到了道家的自然观的影响。
In the debate, Xun Kuang refuted Meng Ke's theory based on humanity by virtue of his deep understanding of Taoism. His view won favor from the ruler of the Qi state and various other assembled scholars, and helped him emerge as the victor. Before this, he was a nobody, but his victory in the debate raised his profile as a scholar. What's most important was the result. Confucianism would absorb Taoism in a comprehensive way. After the debate, Confucianism and Taoism became integrated, the former being imprinted with the marks of the latter.
在中国整个社会发展的进程中间，儒道两家始终是互补的，甚至于包括在一个人的身上，他可能青年时期是儒家思想为主，道家思想为辅的，但是到了他的晚年，他可能儒家思想为辅了，儒道两家思想历来是互补的。
In the pre-Qin era, Xun Kuang was the first to introduce the public. However, it was his most outstanding disciple, Han Fei, who wrote books on Lao Tzu. Han Fei was a political philosopher. In 234 BC, he was asked by the Han king to go to Qin and resolve the situation through diplomacy. His classmate, Lei Se, told the Qin king that Han Fei couldn't be trusted and was more a threat than an asset to the kingdom. Han was then imprisoned. Lei Se was then the Qin Minister of Justice. He was notorious for his cunning behavior. One day, he showed up and told Han Fei he could obtain the king's pardon as long as he could produce some philosophical treatise on the governance of country. Being somewhat naive, Han Fei was taken in by the idea. In the dark prison, he wrote several wonderful discourses that have gone down in history. The most famous of them are Understanding Lao Tzu and Interpreting Lao Tzu. The book Lao Tzu wrote was titled after his name in the pre-Qin era. When Taoism was founded in the Eastern Han Dynasty, the book was renamed Tao Te Ching. Understanding Lao Tzu and Interpreting Lao Tzu were the first books written about the classic Tao Te Ching. Han Fei wrote the 2 articles on the profound connotations of Tao Te Ching by way of a fable. It's used to explain the philosophy. Misery, happiness, is to be found by its side. Happiness, misery lurks beneath it. Who knows what either will come to in the end? However, this misery-happiness philosophy exemplified its correctness in Han Fei. When Li Se read Han Fei's articles, he felt a chill run down his spine. He feared Han Fei would be given a position higher than him by the king, so he decided to kill him. On an autumn night in 233 BC, Li Se offered Han Fei a glass of poisoned wine in the king's name. Thus, the last philosopher of the Warring States period was murdered. Han Fei's death was a tragedy. It was also the final elegy for a turbulent era. Yingzheng, the ruler of Qin state, eventually unified all of China in 221 BC. During the Qin dynasty, the emperor enjoyed a position higher than God, and his will became the exclusive norm all of his subjects had to observe. Any idea to challenge his authority was considered heresy. In 213 BC, an imperial edict was issued from the palace in Xianyang, and a cultural catastrophe erupted in China. According to an order from Emperor Qin Shi Huang, except for agricultural books, almanacs, historical records from the Qin dynasty, and certain books on legalism. The books from all other schools of thought were to be burned, and 461 Confucian scholars would be executed. The proverbial gate to ideological freedom, once opened by scholars, was now closed. Gone were the days when a debate of ideas was condoned. Emperor Qin Shi Huang was notorious in history, but he didn't burn the Tao Te Ching. Why was that? The classic, written on bamboo slips, had become an inalienable part of the Chinese identity, which nothing could erase. This is today's Loguan Taoist Temple on Mount Zhongnan. Lao Tzu was said to have lectured here. In the olden days, the rule was for a scholar to lecture on a high platform. Yinshi built a high platform on a small hill about 1,000 meters south of Luoguan Temple for Laozi. This was the first time Laozi lectured on Taoist concepts. Although no records exist detailing what Laozi lectured on, one can imagine how his lectures echoed across the mist-enveloped mountain.
道大，天大，地大，人亦大。人法地，地法天，天法道，道法自然。
Laozi's lectures on the 590-meter high mountain made Luoguan Temple the place to study Taoist philosophy. This is how Luoguan became known to the world.